everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the Book Publishing Academy podcast. I am super excited because today we have a very special guest. Her name is Miss Tammy Stanley, and she is one of the authors, one of the very first authors that got started with the Book Publishing Academy a couple years ago. And she has a very, very unique story. And I'm just so grateful that we get to sit down and actually have a conversation about her and her book and her journey because it is one that is extremely vulnerable. She's going to share a lot of details about herself and her life that probably people that listen to our podcast can relate to. So I'm just so grateful that you're here with us. Thank you so much, Tammy, for joining us.
You're welcome. I'm very happy to be here on the podcast. Um, it's been a long time, but I'm happy to be back and, sharing my story again with everyone and my different experiences in life. And hopefully, I can help someone with this story. Um, yeah, I'm excited.
Love it. So let's just dive right in. You have a shirt on. It says Prevailing Queens. Tell us about that before we actually get into the whole book stuff.
uh, so, I was inspired to put out my own merchandise and present Prevailing Queens, which is an organization that I put together for women, not any certain type of women, just women, um, because I feel like every woman should be seen as a queen. And every woman should prevail in any situation under any circumstances. Um, this started when said, I'm going to tell my story. And I was like, man, what could I name this organization? I want to put a group of women together. I want to do picnics and we're going to do book clubs. And I want them to be called something amazing. And so I just sat for like maybe 2 months and I was like, Prevailing Queens. That's what I'm gonna call us. And from there, it's basically been about me just meeting different queens of all walks of life and just hearing stories that I can relate to, maybe I can't relate to, but someone I know may can relate to. And I also have an Instagram page, and it's called Prevailing Queens. And if you go on the page, you'll see different women of different walks of life. And I've literally selected each woman, not the ones that are already extremely successful, but the ones that live a daily life and people don't see.
Mm.
So I started to post them like you deserve to be seen, you know? And so I just literally would go on people's page and say, hey, is it okay if I take one of your pictures? I want to nominate you this week.
Oh, I love
And
that.
they would be like, yeah. And I would post them and I'll go through their page and I'll see like what they're doing, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to put light on. And I'll basically just put a message about what they're doing, what they have going on. And it started to attract other people to their page. So just a helping hand in any way that I could and just shedding light on women,
I
prevailing queens.
I love that. I love what it stands for and what you're doing for these women and also giving them some spotlight. Because a lot
Mhm.
of women sometimes are not seen.
Yeah.
So I love what you are doing. Okay, so let's talk about the book. Tell us a little bit about what's the name of your book and what is it about?
Okay, so the name of my book is The Fairy Tale Ends, and I've chosen that title because I was a little girl that thought I was living a fairy tale life with my parents and, of course, my siblings. And as I got older, I realized that it wasn't so much a fairy tale. And also, it all came to an end. And it came to an end in tragedy. So I decided to pick that title because it just like fit with my story. So I decided to, Janine, I like, how many years ago did I write this book?
Been like four.
Yes. I sit and I think about that a lot. I'm like, wow, it's been that long. But um it took a lot for me to even start the book. Um, of course, I kept giving up because every word in every chapter, every title of a chapter, I literally had to live through that moment, relive it again. And I was like, Janine, I can't do this anymore. I
Yep.
kept giving up. She was like, no, you got to do it. Keep going. Just take a break and then come back to it. And literally, I followed that. I followed that through the whole entire time of writing the book, and it helped me. Um, Basically, I thought my dad was such this an amazing dad, and he was, of course. But when it came to my mom, there was a lot of physical abuse that I've watched as a little girl for a very, very long time. And it ended up leading to my mom taking my dad's life. And as kids, that's like something that you would never imagine when you have a two-parent household and you've been raised by both parents, and then suddenly they're both gone because your mom is off to jail and then your dad, like, he's gone forever. Um, so I wanted to share this story because I wanted to touch on how it affect your children, how the abuse could affect your children, um, how my it affected my mom and it affected her parenting, how it affected my relationship with my parents. And I know a lot of people can relate in because there's so many different transitions in the story. It's like as a child you can relate to like going through physical abuse or experiencing that with your parents, or your relationship with your parents. So there's different topics that I touch on where it can relate to someone. um I became Amazon best-selling author with this book.
Of course
uh
you did.
yes. And yeah, I just hope that people can really relate and learn something from it,
Mhm.
and take something with it. So yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you for being courageous, because I can only imagine that every time you have to relive this and talk about it again, it's like opening the wound again.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that happens to me when I have to relive certain things and talk about it. It's like this anxiety comes. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that with us. And then why was it so important for you to get it out as a book?
I was going through a lot of battling with my dad's side of the family, and like friends or people that I thought were friends, and um, even my parents' friends and their brothers and sisters. It was a lot of like blame, and I was like, and then there was like a moment of everyone was telling their own story, and I was like, I lived in the house with them. What story are you telling? I literally lived in the house with these two people and I've seen everything happen every single day. How could you stand up and say, no, this is what happened. This is what I know. He's not like that and she didn't do this, and I'm just like, no, it's time for me to share my experience and what I've seen. I can't tell my brother's story. I can't tell my younger brother's story. I can't tell my sister's story, who was 8 years old at the time. That's their story. I'm telling Tammy's story, what Tammy's seen, what Tammy felt, and what Tammy went through, you know, being raised in that household. No one can take that from me. So I just felt like it was time for me to share my part. And that's what I wanted to do, because it was like, okay, like these celebrities on Instagram and people keep poking at them and punching, and and they're like, I can't say anything because I'm a celebrity. And it's just like, I don't want to let that come in between what I have going on. But then sometimes they're like, no, all right, that's enough. I have to snap back.
Hmm.
That's kind of where I was. I was just like, you know what? I don't care who get upset. I'm telling this story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that because the only people that can tell it are the people that lived in that house, right?
Yes, exactly.
Not the
Exactly.
outside people. So, okay. And so walk us through, like, I guess I'm curious, is your mom still doing time right now? Or,
No, so my mom been home for about 3 years now.
oh,
Um, she's like living her best life in Virginia. And she she served 10 years because she took a plea deal. And she also had like time served. So she was able to come home before doing 15 years. She was sentenced to 15, but because she had the time served and good behavior, she was able to come home in 10. And so she's been home for, like I said, about 3 years. And yeah, she's just running around with grandkids and doing her own things. So yeah.
it's great that she's home. It's one of those things where when a woman goes through like domestic abuse, continual domestic abuse, and then they get to a place where they snap or they decide like, okay, this is the last time it's gonna happen, or this is the day that I stand up for myself, and then they end up having to do time for it. How do you feel about that part about like um her having served the 10 years, but knowing that she might have made a decision that was more so to protect herself and the kids? Like where have you guys discussed that part?
It's so funny because I'm currently having a little bit of detachment from my mom because of that. Because of not being able to talk about these things. And I think she's just in a mindset where it happened, but it didn't happen. Kind of like we're living life, like just keep living your days, and life is
Move
too
on.
short. Like, yeah. And I'm like, Mom, we never talked about it. Like, I remember sitting her down when she came home and I said, "Can you tell me the truth? Can you tell me exactly what happened?" And when she went to jail, like when she went to prison, she told at least four different stories as to what actually happened. So when she came home, I said, I'm going to sit her down. I'm going to ask her, tell me the truth. And it was a different story. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, I don't even want to know the story anymore. But now your children have these feelings and these emotions and they want to talk about it, but she don't want to talk about it.
Mm.
So it's like I'm trying to ignore that, but it's like it eats me up because I want to share with you what I feel. I want you to know how I'm hurting. I want you to know how it affected me as an adult. And it's like she does not want to relive what happened and she don't want to talk about it. So that kind of upsets me. Um, and I know it's very tough being the child in this situation because that's my mother and that's my father.
Yeah.
And it's like I can't choose, but I have to literally be mindful of he abused her, for years, for like over 20 years, almost every single day. And then it's like, you took my dad's life. Why would you do that? I don't have anybody now. Like, I don't have that backup. I don't have dad to call and be like, hey, this guy said he was going to do this to me. Come get him. Like, I don't have that. So it's hard on dealing with both ends. Um, and I understand why she did what she did. And I also fall victim to that part where people be like, well, why didn't you walk away? Why didn't you just leave him? I think that of my mom, but if another person says that, I understand and I'd be like, no. When you're in that moment, you just ready to snap. I understand other people, but when it's my mom, I'm like, why didn't you just leave? But that's not fair. That's contradiction, you know? So it's very, very tough. And hopefully one day, um, as her children, we'll be able to like just sit her down and tell her how it hurt us. And she looks at us as if we're doing great in life, in which we are. Like, no, my siblings, they're not using drugs, or they're not alcoholics, and doing things they're not supposed to be doing. We're pretty much well put together. But my mom don't understand the internal part where we're hurting. Like, I tell her, I'm like, we have temper problems. Like, we don't mesh well with everyone, because we don't trust everyone because of this situation. So yeah, it's very tough.
Yeah, so like on statistics, you and your siblings are doing great, right? On paper, you guys are not locked up,
Yeah,
but like you said, internally you're dealing with things that you can't put on paper.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so yeah, I do pray that she gets to a place where you guys can at least talk about it
yeah,
because
yeah.
that starts the healing process as a family.
Right,
So,
right. And then you attract, I've noticed, like, because of that trauma, and because, like, you attract the wrong people sometimes because of what you have going on. So yes, I have multiple degrees. I'm beautiful. I have my own businesses. Like, I drive a nice car. I have a house. People see that, and then you attract people that's like, wow, like she has it going on. But then when you you call these people and you're like, I'm messed up right now. I'm breaking down. I'm in the shower crying. I can't even get out the shower. Like, they won't come to your house and come get you out that shower, or sit on that floor with you and rub your back while you just cry and let it out. They won't, like, they don't understand that side. So you attract the wrong people, and then you start to realize, you're like, this is not my friend.
mm-hmm.
This isn't my friend, because you got to love all of this. You don't think other things come with me because you think I'm well put together on the outside, but then on the inside, I'm like, yeah, today don't talk to me.
Okay, yeah.
Don't talk to me.
It's
Yeah.
tough.
Hmm.
I can imagine too, like how you said, being on both sides because there are cycles of abuse, right? So with abuse, and I don't know the full cycle. I don't know if you do, but there's a cycle of abuse as far as like you're happy with your partner, everything's great, and then it turns into an argument, and then it turns physical, and then it goes back to like everything's great. And then so the victim starts to feel like if I could just hold on and hope for those good times, right?
Hmm.
And then you just hold on to hope and you hold on to hope and you hold on to hope and then but it's a cycle. And then
Yeah.
so that part where you had said earlier of like why didn't you just leave? And a lot of women or men too don't leave because they're holding on to that hope of like "But I do know that we can we
Gonna
have
get better.
romance and we have those good moments
Yeah.
and he's fine when I just don't walk on that when I'm not walking on eggshells and not doing this and so um but then you're right back to it. And so a
Yep.
lot of people don't leave. They end up staying in that cycle and it's hard to get out of it.
Yep.
Um so I can understand like you as a child, like being on both ends of like, well, my dad, this was the reality of how my dad was to my mom. And then trying to understand of like, well, why didn't you leave? But I understand why you didn't leave. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
separation, you know what I mean?
I found myself in relationships like that where I'm like, cycle, it's good. It's very good right now. Okay, now you're verbally abusing me. Okay, I'm doing it back too. Okay, now it's physical. Now we're fighting each other. And then, all right, no, we're good. Let's hold on to this. And that cycle just keep going and going and going. And then next thing you know, you're years in with this person, and then you become immune to that cycle. So when you get in the next relationship, that cycle is still stuck with you. And again, you're attracting the wrong person. So now, because you're so used to that cycle, there's something in that person that is within that cycle that you're attracted to, but you don't even know it,
Mhm.
right? Like you're you're so used to someone verbally abusing you or being disloyal to you or yelling, like it's something that that person does that was in that cycle in that last relationship. This new person is doing something, but you're cool with it because you're used to it. So you ignore it. Now you in the whole cycle again with the new person. Like it's literally tricky and people don't realize that. Like
Mhm.
there's so much with domestic violence. It's so much. And I people just think that it's a physical thing, but like literally it takes over your entire body, your entire like image, your aura, everything about you, it takes over. Like verbal abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse.
Bird.
Emotional abuse? Oh my gosh. People like, I have to tell my fiance, like, there's a such thing as emotional abuse, right? You do know there's a such thing as emotional neglect. If I'm a person that feels that suffers with separation anxiety, or I feel like I keep losing people. For example, my brother passed away a week before my birthday, 2023 last year. And it's like, I live in that who's next? Who's next? Who's next? Because I'm so used to not like since that happened with my parents, it's like I'm used to losing people.
Mhm.
And I'm afraid of that. Like I don't take death well. I'm sure many people don't, but like for me, I will shut down. I will go into a dark place and I won't talk to anyone. You won't know if I'm dead or alive because I don't do death well. I just go into a whole different zone. And so if you're not giving that emotional support, if you're not coming to like force yourself on me, I won't come out the darkness. I would literally stay there. And that's a part of like you have to know your partner emotions. You have to know what really hits them hard and give them that emotional support.
Mhm.
That's a big one there.
Mhm. And there's
Like the physical, not that physical abuse is okay, but I will hit you back.
oh yeah,
Don't hit me, I'm gonna hit you back. Don't curse at me because I might curse at you back. But emotional, like
emotional
there's
subtle
no,
too.
yeah,
You sometimes don't even know that it's happening until because you're also being like gaslit. So you
yeah,
question yourself, like, did that really just happen? Like, am I
yeah,
crazy?
yeah,
And it
yeah,
isn't until like it has happened multiple months, years where you like wake up one day and you're like, sun's off.
yeah, yeah. Seriously,
It's
you
subtle,
don't know that it's happening. Yeah,
creeps up on you.
yeah.
And yeah, and there's so many different types of it that people do. So one thing that I have learned recently, because I have been a part of these types of relationships, is that I have a high tolerance level because it's something that I have
Mm,
learned from previous relationships. So when you have a high tolerance, like let's say you have a high tolerance for pain, if you were
mm-hmm,
to get cut and you're bleeding and you're like, oh, it's fine, like I don't feel anything. So if I
mm-hmm.
get cut again, it's fine. And if I get cut again, it's fine because I don't feel
You
anything. But
don't
it's
feel
the same
it.
thing with that type of relationship where you have such a high tolerance level for it. So if the next person does it and you have a high tolerance level for it, you accept it
Mhm.
again because
Yep.
that's where your threshold is way up here.
Yeah.
Whereas, recently I had tea with a friend, an old friend of mine, and she has never been in any of these types of relationships before, and her tolerance level is like down here. She's like, oh, like I have zero, like my non-negotiables are this, and I have zero empathy for someone if they disrespect me, and I don't care what the consequence is going to be. And I'm like, it was just amazing to see such a
Mhm.
difference because her tolerance level was so low and mine has been high on these types of things. So I allow more. She's like, oh no, I don't allow anything, And so it's definitely interesting. And then for some of us that have been in something like that, it's retraining yourself to like bring the tolerance level
Yeah.
back down. Educate yourself of
Yeah.
like what is normal and what's not normal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I say like when you're when if you're with someone for even a short period of time, long period of time, short period of time, um, I say like if you guys separate, like if it's done, it's over, you literally have to take time for yourself and regroup and do that with your tolerance. Like you literally have to be like, how did I accept that? No, never again. No, absolute. That is a zero tolerance in the amount of times you accepting somebody back. Zero tolerance. Like, like, or the amount of times you done call me out my name. Zero tolerance. So I say like take some years before you go into the next because I think people are like just going into the next relationships and not even healing from the last,
Mhm.
or they have like childhood traumas and things that could affect their relationship. Like your friend, she probably never experienced that, but like, let's just say she was to have childhood trauma experiences where that could just affect the relationship, not that somebody else is doing something to her. Because we do that too. We mess up relationships because we have our own personal things going on.
Mhm.
And your partner would be like, what is wrong with you? What? Why are you yelling? Why are you screaming? And it's that anger, or your child did something and you just turn around and you're like, la, 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 don't do that. And your partner looks at you like, that's how you discipline? Why are you yelling at your child? Did that happen to you? You know, that could affect your relationship right there. Like, they're like, oh no, I had a child with you. This is how you discipline. So
Mhm.
it could be different things. So just take that time to just regroup everything with yourself. Heal from your childhood traumas, heal from past relationships. Because if not, you're just going to keep on with that circle and that pattern, and it's just going to keep happening.
This
It's
is
not you.
why. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You can't move to another state. You can't move to another house. You can't get a new car, put on new clothes. It's not going to change who you are. None of it. You got to sit with you and be like, yeah, I'm kind of messed up in this area. I need to I need to fix that.
And it's not placing blame on the other person or blame on
Mhm.
yourself, but it's accepting what happened and then taking responsibility for your own actions. Of
Yes. That's
why did I allow this? Why did I have such a high tolerance?
yeah.
Where does this tie back to my childhood? So
Hmm.
this is why I'm excited for your next book whenever you decide to write it, because I know it's gonna be good. I know it. So Tammy, if our listeners and viewers want to connect with you or purchase your book, where can they grab it?
So my Instagram, I am currently off Facebook right now. Let me tell you something. I do self-care, okay? I will shut it down in a heartbeat because I do not like to feel overwhelmed. I will shut down social media, and I don't know how you guys will find me, but something will pop up, find my email. But right now I just have Instagram platform. You can follow me, Tammy Stanley, first and last name. That's TammyStanley_. That's my main page. That's where I post all of my photo shoots, my book, a little bit of my family. I don't put too much out there, but that's the page that you want to follow me on. I have the Prevailing Queens page, which is prevailing__ Queens. It's not much activity on there, but if you need to reach me, I definitely go into my DMs and check. Yeah. And then my book is in the link in my bio on my main page, the Tammy Stanley page. So you can go and purchase there.
Love it. I
Yeah.
can't wait. I can't wait. I mean, I've read the book, but I can't wait for the next upcoming book. And I know that we have also talked about you possibly in the future doing it in video form. Like I was telling her, I'm like, you need to get this on a documentary or a movie. Like, and I know that you will. Like, your story is so unique. So I can't wait to see that come to life for you, where you can actually share your story and do all that. So,
Yes, I'm ready for the big screen. So if anybody
yes,
hears this,
Tyler Perry. I'm waiting for
Tyler
you.
Perry, if you're listening, okay,
Well, Tammy,
it
thank
is
you.
me.
Thank you so much for joining us to the Book Publishing Academy podcast. I'm super grateful for you and for sharing your story and being vulnerable with us. And yeah, just keep us updated. We will keep you guys updated on Miss Tammy and if she decides to write that second book. But we want to thank you again. Thank you so much, girl.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
And guys, if you are tuning in, make sure that you like, subscribe, share this podcast with a friend, share it with someone that might resonate with this topic or this book. Have them click the link that I'm going to have in the bio so that they can purchase it as well. And we will see you next week with another episode. Thanks, guys.